Leeds United have received some absolutely colossal news, including great financial news, a bit of a Summerville transfer update, and what the plan is for the match against Leicester City. But first up, subscribe. It's always much appreciated, and it's good to have people around. Nice, open community. Join us. So, diving into the news, first up, we need to talk about a big financial boost for Leeds United. Now, the Deloitte Money League has now been published for the last couple of seasons. It's a little bit complicated. It takes time for all of these financial reports to come out, but we now know how much many major clubs earned over the 22-23 season, and Leeds United did surprisingly better than you might expect. Leeds United had the 27th biggest revenue in world football in the 22-23 season. That's absolutely colossal, especially considering the fact that, there are significantly larger clubs like Real Madrid, Barcelona, also in that conversation. We're very high up as far as Premier League clubs go. We totaled an income of £177.6 million, and that's real big. Like, it's hard to sort of fathom the size of that, but £100 million of that will be broadcast revenue, which is going to shrink significantly for the next batch of earnings reports. So let's keep that in mind. It's going to be a lot lower for 23-24, but ultimately, these numbers make it ideal for investors that are looking to add to the club because they know that there will be something in the long run if they put their money into the side. And in addition to that, the £177.6 million is only going to rise with the 49ers' planned spending on the stadium. Sorry about that. They're looking to increase the capacity of Elland Road beyond the current, I think it's 38,000, up to 45, 50, 55,000, the sort of number of seats that Leeds United sort of deserve, because the fan base is colossal. It's got international appeal. Both working class and wealthier tourist fans would want to come in the Premier League, and I'm sure that our revenues would massively recover upon the Premier League return, upon the stadium expanding, and it'll give a lot of potential investors a reason to go, okay, there's a lot of clubs around, but this side was struggling for 2 consecutive seasons and still made the 27th most money in the world. Screw it. Put my money behind them. And joining the 49ers group as potential investors would be colossal for us. It'll help in not only the push for promotion this season, you've seen a lot of people have gotten behind that investment deal, but in the future, if we are promoted, it will go towards funds to get better players. It will go towards making sure that we are able to stay in the Premier League and push on to Europe. Not in the Radrizzani way of, we're going to get there in 5 years, but in the more realistic way of build consistently and get there eventually. We also learned about the plan for the Leicester City match from a Daniel Farke press conference after Plymouth. I remembered I didn't quite cover this, so I'm just going to dive into it now. Farke did a fairly detailed interview after the Plymouth match, discussing sort of the match itself and what's going to happen for Leicester. And the first thing he had to say was he wasn't sure if any other side in Western Europe had more travel miles in the last couple of weeks. And I think he's correct. There was a Champions League fixture in there, but if you consider that we had to go down to Bristol and Swansea and Plymouth, that's a hell of a lot of travel for any club, especially a championship club, with the sort of fixtures that we're having to deal with over this period. It's a lot of football. It's a lot of moving. So he's noted the need to calm down the load a little bit right now. That means less travel, less physical training, getting control of the way that the club are managing players and their fitness, because you can't be all go all the time, because that causes some real problems. I think in theory, this will mean easing off on training in the early days of the week. The match is on Friday. I can see a couple of days of more chill stuff, maybe a little bit of like team-shaped bits, a potential tactical focus looking at the way that Leicester play, more of the theory stuff like video analysis sessions, that kind of thing, as an alternative to just the run stuff, because that doesn't necessarily work when you have this much of a match load going on. As the week develops, I reckon they'll sort of ramp up the physical training, get in a couple of match scenarios, and ultimately get into the best possible shape for the match against Leicester City. Because whilst it's not the match that will decide promotion, we're on such a good run of form right now, both in terms of winning 8 in the league on a row and not losing at home yet this season. And if we're able to keep that going against Leicester, not only do we massively shrink the gap to them, pulling them arguably back into this little 4-horse race we've got going, but it means that we sort of make a statement. We tell the other side, no, we're not messing about. This isn't just 8 wins against sides that we should fairly easily be beating. This is including Leicester, the side that are walking away with the title right now. And it sort of widens the conversation and means that we are definitely in the chat for not only promotion, but first place. And that'll be huge. Finally, a quick update on Crysencio Summerville and a potential transfer. A lot has been said about Crysencio Summerville potentially leaving in both the summer and in January, and it's fairly obvious that there's going to be eyes on him. He's the 4th top scorer in the division, which is massive, especially for a winger, not someone playing centrally. As Jesse Marsh would say, the goal's in the middle. So in addition to that, he's got the 3rd highest goals and assists combined because of his 8 assists. That just racks his tally up even higher. And it makes sense that Premier League clubs would be interested. Specifically, there were reports of interest from Everton, from Bournemouth, and from Burnley. You'd think that'd be a little bit hard to fend off, especially if the player was trying to force a move, and Ben Jacobs has reported on that interest and said that nothing has ever advanced, specifically because Summerville has always indicated that he wanted to stay at Leeds during the summer and in January. This was a pleasant surprise for me. I read this report and I thought, I was convinced that Summerville was actively looking for a move. I was convinced he was trying to force his way out, but that doesn't seem to have been the case. He also notes that there are potentially nerves in the event that the club does not go up, because then there's a strong argument that Crysencio Summerville will look for a place elsewhere, because from his point of view, that is just common sense. Because as much as I like him here, we need to acknowledge that he's not a championship player. Crysencio Summerville is at the very least a lower-end Premier League player, and he's got a lot of potential to keep growing, and become one of the better players even in that division. I'm not going to go and up things and say Summerville's world class, but I'm going to say that this shouldn't really be a question as to him playing in the Premier League next season. And if we don't get promoted, that's on us. And I can completely understand him pushing for a move in that case. But for the short term, at the very least, that we can see a very clear benefit in the fact that Crysencio Summerville isn't one of the people that's like, I'm going to force a move. We saw Nonto do it. Nonto made a public statement, and we actively said, no, you're not going anywhere. We saw Sinistera do it. There were theories that Summerville was doing it. But if the report is correct, and Ben Jacobs is typically relatively reliable, we can trust Summerville. And I like that. I like being positively attached to players because it makes me quite happy. The same with Jorginho Rutter. I'm sure that if we don't go up this season, he'll potentially look for a move. But until then, I'm really enjoying the fact that he's basically an adorable puppy that just loves his football and goes mad every single time he gets a perfect touch off and can't control himself when he's trying to do the cool, calm, collected celebrations. That's great. Football is about joy and fun and happiness, and having all these great players here right now absolutely increases that, in my opinion. I love it, and I hope they can stick around for longer. Anyway, I don't know what you think about all of these stories, about the plans for the Leicester match, about the fact that Leeds United are apparently earning significant amounts of money, and the fact that Crysencio Summerville apparently wanted to stay throughout summer and winter. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Let me know what you think about the new sort of 1080p video stuff, because if it's working, I'll keep it up. Yeah, hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. I will see you later. You're expecting me to say something now, aren't you? Got you. Oh, God. That was a bit daft.